I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. This video is section 9.5 in the analysis of Nietzsche's Will to Power. As you guys know, the notes are available. Just click the link that pops up in the banner or the link in the description field. It'll take you to the notes. And in this particular section, we're going to talk more in detail about the herd specifically. So let's begin. 9.5. As you guys know, we're using the Walter Kaufmann translation of Nietzsche's Will to Power, and let's begin. So this is Will to Power, and this is section 9.5. That's notes. What is it? Note 284 to 287. 284 through 287. Okay. Alright, so the first thing to recognize is the following quote, right? This is the condition and desires that are praised. This note comes from note 284. Nietzsche says, when he says the conditions and desires that are praised, obviously these are praised insofar as one ascribes to traditional Christian morality. So traditional Christian morality praises the following: peaceable, fairness, moderate, modesty, reverence, considerate, brave, chaste, honest, faithful, devout, straight, trusting, devoted, sympathetic, hopeful, conscientious, simple, mild, just, generous, and so on and so on and so on and so on. You get the idea, right? The idea is that traditional Christian morality praises all of the characteristics that define, quote-unquote, a group or class of people that are willfully or impositionally subordinated, right? These characteristics facilitate their identity, if you will. He says, this is top of page 51, number one, the condition and desires that are praised, they are none of them felt to be good. And I'll explain this in a second. The conditions and desires that are praised, they are none of them felt to be good for their own sake, but for the first according to the standard, the norm of society, the herd. As we've seen before, right, the herd, I think in the last section, the herd is going to promote, right? P-R-O-M-O-T-E. The herd is going to promote the following characteristics that we said, right? The conditions and desires that are praised, and I just listed some of them: meek, modesty, mildness, sympathy, compassion, da da da. Right? So these are conditions promote conditions and desires that facilitate herd-like behavior. Right? The herd is going to obviously promote conditions and desires that facilitate herd-like behavior. And I listed some of those. And in note 284, he goes through and he identifies those. So if you want to look and see what Nietzsche identifies as those conditions and desires, look in note 284. But we know the idea, right? So and that these desires, right, these conditions and desires promote, facilitate herd-like behavior. They're not good for their own sake, but they're good, these conditions and desires are good insofar as they accord with the standards and norms of society, with the herd. Right? So the whole point of ascribing to this normativized belief, and we saw what the norm was in the last section, or the section before. I called it normativized sameness. But it's just my sort of concept derived from Nietzsche's passages. But it's normativized sameness, right? The whole point is, as a norm, we posit the herd-like mentality as this end-all, be-all. We know that the goal, specifically speaking, is improvement, right? And insofar as we arrive at that goal, you can't really ever arrive at improvement by definition. A priori, improvement suggests that there is something more to be done. All of these characteristics of simple-mindedness, conscientiousness, hopefulness, hopeful for, conscientious for, obedient to, disinterested in. All of these things require more concepts in order to actualize or to facilitate this, the end of perpetual improvement, right? Okay, so that should be hopefully clear. So basically, the herd promotes these conditions and desires because they facilitate, right? It sort of normativized sameness facilitates herd-like behavior, right? If the norm is that we all should be the same, that no one, and I talked about this before, that no one should stand above and beyond the crowd, then insofar as I ascribe to that norm and I apply that norm to my daily practice, I'm going to be just like everybody else, right? So then the conditions and desires that I ascribe to are the means in which I attain the end, being normativized sameness, right? So that's what that means, right? The conditions and desires that are praised, they are none of them felt to be good for their own sake, but for the first according to the standard norm of society. Okay, should make sense. All right, number 2. The conditions and desires that are praised serve the end of society and the herd. Society and the herd have exactly the same end, the same destination, right? Society and the herd have exactly the same end and the same destination. Again, to sort of recap, I don't know, maybe 2-3 hours ago, I discussed, I forget exactly when it was, society is based in the individual's concern for the other, right? The welfare. And then this serves as the condition for society, right? Society is buttressed in, right, the antecedent cause, which is elevating the concern of the other's welfare over and above my own. That serves as the condition for the society of, the condition for the possibility of society, but this same act, right, the act of elevating the welfare of the other above my own is exactly the same behavior that facilitates a herd-like mentality. So that this concept, if I were to write it down in words, right, elevating the welfare of the other over and above my own serves as the condition for the possibility of society and the herd. Right, that's the point, right? Elevating the welfare of the other over and above my own serves as the condition for the possibility of both society and the herd. Society and the herd both require the assumption that the individual welfare of the other person, love thy neighbor, turn the other cheek, love your enemy, these concepts serve as both the condition for the possibility of society and the herd. Granted, I gave you an alternative account of society, so I'm not going to rehash that again. It's not to say that this is the exclusive means, but in terms of the relationship between the Christian moral ethic and our contemporary social discourse, our contemporary moral discourse, what Nietzsche is saying is that the elevation of the other over and above my own considerations is the condition for the possibility of both society and the herd. And this is what's being used, right? The conditions of desire. And I talked about meekness, modesty, so on. Okay, that should be clear. All right, 2a. 2a says the condition, these praiseworthy conditions are, quote, necessary to the preservation and advancement of the herd, right? These praiseworthy conditions, right, these conditions are, quote, necessary to the preservation and advancement of the herd. The herd is insulated, right? The herd is insulated, right? The herd is insulated. It is protected by these conditions and desires, right? And just so that we know, I'll list a few of them. Meekness, modesty. What are some of the other ones that he says? Mildness, generosity,